E-commerce Gold is brought to you by Rewind. Accidents happen. Maybe you installed an app and it messed up your theme, or a store collaborator deleted product images by mistake. It's a common myth that Shopify has a backup that you can use when something goes wrong with your store. The fact is they don't. That's untrue. That myth is busted. So what do? You use Rewind to equip your Shopify store with automated backups. Rewind should be the first app you install to protect your store against human error, misbehaving apps, or collaborators gone bad. It's like having your very own magic undo button. It's trusted by over 100,000 businesses, from side hustles to the biggest online retailers like Nix, Lord & Taylor, and Moomin. It's even a Shopify Plus certified app. Best of all, visit rewind.com/e-commerce gold and get your first month for absolutely nothing, free on us. The Ecom Gold podcast has partnered with Clearco to provide you with financial tools to grow your business without having to give away equity. Clearco is the world's largest e-commerce investor and growth platform, giving founders the financial tools, capital, and network they need to grow. Plug in your Shopify store and your loan could be agreed within just 24 hours. Visit clear.co/partner/Vixxr, VIXXR, for exclusive deals, £1,000 off your first loan as a podcast listener, and more information. This show is brought to you in collaboration with Vixxxr, a leading Shopify agency with a mission to grow and migrate brands to Shopify Plus. They've worked with some of the world's largest brands and can help you level up your e-commerce performance. Visit Vixxr.com, VIXXR.com for more information. In this incredible episode, we speak to Kristen about UGC and a bit about some of the tactics that she's using at her current company, SuitShop. UGC is a side hustle for Kristen, and she has a really interesting take on it. And there's actually something in this that I learned for the first time: professional UGC, which wasn't something I'd come across before. So I really hope you enjoy this one and are able to take away some of the strategies and learning that Kristen provides and implement it in your own business successfully. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already after the episode, and share it with your friends. Without further ado, here we go. Awesome. Kristen, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on E-commerce Gold. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for inviting me to be here.
Amazing. Can you give us an introduction and a short overview of who you are and what your professional career has been to this point?
Yeah. Who am I? I'm Kristen, and I am a full-time marketing director at SuitShop. On the side, though, I love to create UGC content, which a lot of people have come to recognize me for. You might have even seen me on your feeds, and now that you're putting a face to the name, you might recognize me even more. But let me slow down for a second. I've been in growth marketing and D2C for about 7 years, and I've been with SuitShop for about 20 months of those 7 years. So SuitShop is kind of a one of its kind, digitally native suiting brand that allows someone to own a two-piece suit for under $200. Traditionally, a lot of our competitors are either rentals or at a much higher price point. So we're kind of in our own little sweet spot at this point in time. I'm sure that won't last forever, but it's in a great spot for now. We're able to keep our costs low because our co-founder actually is a technical designer who does everything from, establishing the colors of our fabrics to the actual technical designs of the styles. So we get to cut a lot of the costs down and keep our prices low in that sense. So we've been on the map for about 6 years. We were formerly the Groom's Institute, and we are having one of our biggest years yet with over 150% growth. I don't want to get into the specifics too much, but we can kind of dive into that and like how we got there. But that's a little bit about me and SuitShop.
And how big's your team there? How big's the total team at SuitShop, and how big's your team?
Panic wiped over me because I don't know the exact answer because we've been growing a lot. But when I started, I was one of 10. I am still the only person on the marketing team. I have now one part-time copywriter who splits her time between copywriting and then customer service. And our customer service team is really the bulk of our team. And so I think we just are over 20 employees at this point, but I know we've recently added a few part-time employees that are in our showrooms in Philly, Denver, and Chicago. which aren't really in our Slack channels. And we only have like a big team meeting once a month. So I haven't actually been fully acquainted with everyone to have an exact answer, but we just broke 20. So that's exciting.
And when you say showrooms, are they actually physical retail outlets?
Yes. We are not retail at all. So we're 100% D2C. So even if someone does come into the store, technically, yes, we can place an order for them and they can walk out with something if we have what they need in inventory at the showroom. But we use these specifically as a showroom for people to come, touch and feel and really have an experience. So we'll probably get into this more, but a primary audience for us is going to be people who are engaged to be married, and a wedding party, attending a wedding. Like that's our bread and butter. It always has been. Again, our name was formerly the groomsman suit, and we'll get into why we changed that. But with that being said, a lot of wedding parties, more specifically people who identify as women, get to go in and do the dress try on and have so much fun if that's, the style that they want to go with. And they have champagne and have this moment together. And a lot of times the guys or the grooms or people who want to wear suits don't really have that same experience. Like even brides who want to wear suits or marriers who want to wear suits, like they don't get to have that experience. So our showrooms are really to help with have an experience with SuitShop and let people just come in, feel it, try it on if they want to. But again, it's not really something where they run in and walk out with something. If it's an emergency situation and it's the last piece that we have in inventory, we'll send someone home with it. We're not going to say no. But it's not meant for traditional retail whatsoever. Chicago was our first showroom. And to give you like a little bit more background on how we even got to the showrooms, I'm just going to reverse in time. So Jean and Diana are co-founders. Jean was married and was wearing one of the very big rental tuxedo and suit people that are brands that you'll know. I'm just not going to mention them. And the photos are honestly a little bit comical at this point now that I know what suiting is supposed to look like, where everybody's looking a little bit mix match. They're baggy, they're too tight, like things don't fit. I see why she started what was the groomsman suit at the time. So her best friend is Diana. They've been best friends since grade school. They are like true BFFs still to this day. She was a business grad from MIT. So they decided to like use their fashion industry background and business background to work together and started SuitShop in their New York City apartment in 2016. So people were ordering online. Again, we're digitally native. We're always meant to be online, but people were showing up to their apartment to like try things on. And they were like, no, this isn't going to work. So they opened the Chicago showroom. Again, it was still meant to just be, if someone wanted to come in, they could kind of a place. So with that being said, it's off the beaten path in Chicago. It's kind of, you have to get buzzed in, find it. It's upstairs. There's a little bit of street signage, but it's really not on like a busy walkway where we're going to get a ton of foot traffic. Versus our Philly and Denver showrooms are kind of like what you mentioned about being kind of on this like more of a main street where there are other shops involved and people might want to walk in. So, but we do try to reserve this for appointments only. We, if we have the availability, we're not going to turn someone away. And if someone is willing to wait and we can kind of fit them in between appointments, then we'll be flexible, but we definitely do not encourage that. To answer that question a little bit more, typically these are people in their wedding planning process that have either already made the decision on SuitShop and are bringing the guys in, maybe, bringing their wedding party in to be a little bit more inclusive of who we actually represent, but bringing their wedding party in to try things on and kind of have that experience. Like I mentioned, there might be another option where somebody's attending a wedding. It's this weekend and they just were like, I need something quick. And they want to just, again, actually try something on physically. But other than that, it's like, we're not really driving a ton of people that way from like a walk-in perspective, but we do have ads running that are like, set up an appointment, come get fitted. And we do offer online appointments as well. So if somebody wants to talk to one of our customer service reps or stylists, they can get on a call and kind of, they can stand up, show someone their body type, walk through how to measure yourself. Technically, someone else should be measuring you. So if a couple calls in, it's better because they can actually work together. But again, all of our stuff, I don't think I really got into this, but our entire website is built to support a 100% online experience and not need to go get measured. So you don't need to come into our showroom. It's purely an experiential moment in our brand. So that's it.
For sure. So let's jump into that a little bit because it's clear that when you're trying to get a suit for your big day, it needs to fit right. And it's not a purchase that you're going to be making particularly often. And usually with those kinds of purchases, you're more willing to spend more money traditionally. And that's a challenge for you, I guess, because obviously traditionally you might go into a shop, like you said, and that's why you have that. But as a pure play online D2C, you have to be able to support some of the objections that a possible customer would have about, feeling safe that what they order is going to fit, or how to even order. Like I'm not even sure. I've had suits in the past, really cheap ones, but like I don't know any of my measurements personally. I could take them, but I don't know any of my measurements. I don't know like what's the right cut for me. I have no clue, really no clue. And how have you addressed that online? Because I guess I'd like to know, like, how would you convince me that it's safe and I'm going to get it right? Or maybe if I get it wrong, like what would happen?
So great question. I mean, like you said, this is stuff that we've been thinking about and that are really built into our entire system and how we operate. For a little more background, just for the people listening from Shopify, we're Shopify Plus, we're headless. Our site is entirely custom built. We have a CTO and a full-time developer on staff. And our back end is also completely built except for our custom built besides our trial system, and our checkout obviously still hosted by Shopify. So everything that we have is very, very much to kind of, like you said, combat these objections and give someone like the best possible online suit shopping experience. If you Google SuitShop reviews right now, there are thousands of 5-star reviews, and they all say how painless it was and how much they loved the support, and they were worried about buying a suit online, and they didn't, all of their worries were essentially eliminated when working with us. And the reason that they're able to say things like that is because it kind of all starts with our fit finder. So we have this data-backed fit finder that cross-references hundreds of thousands of data points of other people that are just like you when you're putting your data in. And we're really just asking for your size, or not your size, but your height, your weight, your shoe size. If you happen to know your pant size or your jacket size, you can put that in, but it's optional. And then we're going to make like a data-backed recommendation on what your size is with SuitShop. And so you often do get, sometimes you'll get people who are like, well, I know my suit size. And it's like, but we are custom, like designed in-house. So you should still do our fit finder. With that being said, fit finder is the first step. Then there are a few other options. You could just purchase a suit and order it to your house, and we have free shipping and free exchanges. And we have a really painless exchange system because we use Loop as part of our tech stack. So you can literally self-serve the whole experience if you don't want help and you just want to figure it out on your own. If not, you can jump on, again, a call with us, and we can have someone on our team actually help walk you through that buying decision. Another podcaster, fellow Twitter friend, he actually jumped on a virtual appointment with us and like did the whole experience so he could write a review for the quality edit for me, or for the quality man, which is like a child of the quality edit. And so anyway, got to like send him through that whole thing. But with that being said, once they've gone through that appointment, if they want to go through that, they can order a trial. It's a free trial for 7 days. Once it's delivered, they have 7 days to try it on and ship it back, and they'll never be charged. There will be a hold placed, that's how Try Now works, but there'll be a hold on their account while they're trying it on, but they will not actually be charged that cash unless they keep it and do not return it. And again, if they do keep it, or if they do try it on and it's not the right fit, but they know this is the suit for me, I like the color, I like the texture, I like the way that generally it fits, I just need a different size, then we can still charge them and do that free exchange process. So we give them a lot of resources and tools, again, to self-serve or be handheld through the process if they want it. But yeah, I mean, it is a common objection because people do believe that they have to go in person to get something. But I think what is also important to know is that SuitShop isn't made to order. We're technically off the rack, but we have the widest size range of, I think, of almost any online off the rack suiting brand. So we go from short to regular to long to extra long. And then from size, I want to say in the pants, it's like 32 to, or in the jacket, it's 30 to 50. And then in the pants, we go even lower if you've got some like really slim people on the bottom. And then in the women's cut, We have the 0 to size 20, I want to believe, again, in short, long, or short, regular, and long. And then we have the slim and modern cuts. So since we sell everything as separates, people can mix and match. If they want to get a slim top, modern bottom, if they need extra long top because they have long arms and torsos but have short legs, like, they can really mix and match everything to get a super custom feel without having to pay custom dollars. And so again, we just have all these resources for them to be able to figure out what is that mix and match product to get the perfect fit. And if they don't get it the first time, we'll work with them until they do get it right, and they don't have to pay any extra money for that. So that's really how we're able to make that happen online.
And that sounds like a constantly iterative process in terms of you're always trying to make it an easier, more seamless journey for the customer to be able to order online. And I imagine that's what led you away from just a simple Shopify setup into what is now quite a complicated Shopify setup. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something I want to address. Is that the primary reason why you've taken some of these technology choices, and how have they played out in terms of the core Shopify offering? In my opinion, is simplicity, or one of its core offerings is simplicity.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, now you've gone headless, Shopify Plus, and you've got, I think you said, either a custom backend or some kind of integration.
Mm-hmm.
How has that played out for you guys in terms of coming away from the core product that Shopify offers?
So that's a great question. I wasn't part of the decision, making of this. Our CTO, she's been with SuitShop since they were the groomsmen suit, originally as just like a contracted, I want to say just like general web developer, just working on the site, kind of helping go beyond the standard templates to building out the back end dashboards that we have. So a lot of that, I think, lies in what she needed to be able to accomplish some of these goals that we had. So I'm not going to sit here and act like any of that was my decision, or that I had really any say or, decision making in it at all. It was already like that. Well, actually, it wasn't already like that. We kind of implemented that maybe like 4 or 5 months into my path with SuitShop. But with that being said, it does change a lot. People need to be prepared for that if they're ever going to take that headless journey, because you're now opening yourself into this new side of things. Like you said, moving away from some simplicity, you actually do need to probably have someone on your team or a very strong agency partner who's like helping you keep up with these things, especially if you're building a lot of these custom things yourself. Because how you create custom metrics for any advertising channels, Klaviyo, Facebook, Meta, whatever, that changes. How an app on Shopify installs onto the site now changes. How things are tracked now changes. It really just depends also how custom you go. We are super custom. So like for us, everything is different. But I do think, I'm not the best at this topic, honestly. I do think that depending on kind of what level of customizations you go for and like how specific your build is, some things might still work to the way that you'd like them to, but for the most part, everything becomes custom. It's not just the way your site looks and operates at this point. It's like, again, pixel actions, custom metrics, all of these things change. So the flexibility and the ability to install just any app changes a ton. So yeah, that's changed a bit, but it wasn't really my decision. And I'm glad that we have it, because if I need something, and instead of being like a marketer who has to just be like, I'm going to click a button to create like a custom metric, I get to take that parts off my plate and goes to my CTO a little bit. And she kind of gets to help me test logic whenever I'm like, okay, I really want to make an automation do XYZ. Can we do that with what we have set up? And so then she can give me a strong yes or no and help me build it out. And it often allows a little bit more customization in those marketing metrics. So there's pros and cons to it, I think. And we've done a lot with it. And I think, like you said, it'll continue to kind of evolve as we adapt what our support looks like. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. My background, for anyone who doesn't know, is I come from 5 or 6 years in the Magento space, which is a legacy, very open source custom platform.
Yeah.
Well, it has the ability to be custom. And one of the reasons why we switched to Shopify and doubled down on Shopify was because of the complexity that changes introduced. Now, I'm not suggesting that you are experiencing anywhere near because the back end was fully customizable as well, it caused havoc for a lot of companies, many companies. But what is interesting is that there is a common misconception with Shopify, and that it is rigid. And there are advantages to keeping it rigid, like some of the ones you mentioned, just click, plug and play for apps and things like that. But there are also, in the right hands, for example, you said you've got a technical CTO, you understand the processes as well. You can innovate and you can create and you can do those things, but you just have to be wary of the changes that brings in terms of the technology and how that technology is able to be utilized with other technologies. So I think it's a balance, and what I really didn't want to hear from you is frustration, and I didn't hear frustration. I heard optimism, and that's encouraging, right? Because you're not frustrated at the platform, you're optimistic about the abilities that you're able to. Whether your CTO would say the same, I don't know, but
I mean, it was her choice, and I think she loves doing it. I do want to add, I'm not going to go and say, negative things whatsoever, but as a marketer, where if you do have that plugin, again, if you do, you're able to just plug in an app for like a landing page, for example, and just build a quick landing page. It's not that simple anymore. Our landing page process takes a lot more work. And the way we use VWO is a lot different than I think a lot of other brands. And so we have that. And then the same thing goes, literally for anything. It's just not as simple, but it does allow for so much like customization. And there is a lot of optimism, I think, in it, even if it can potentially slow you down. Like, I can't just click a button. My CTO has to be available to do what I need to be able to take certain actions. So sometimes there are roadblocks, but it pays off. Like, there is so much payoff from it. So I definitely think there's more optimism than roadblocks or negativity, for sure.
For sure. No, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from with that. And it's something that we're learning as well. And I think for a company like yourselves, you add so much value with some of the things you've reeled off there with your Fit Finder and things like that it's just a no-brainer, right? So just give us a really quick overview of the rest of the tech stack, if you don't mind. So any key apps that you use, anything else like that you just rely on day in, day out?
Yeah. So I think some of the biggest ones for more of like the service team, and we've been hearing more about this a lot lately, especially if you're like in the D2C Twitter space, but we are using Try Now for our trials. We always offered trials. Again, that was a custom built system that we had. It was an added landing page essentially, and like a different checkout system. So this has really simplified it for us. It's given our team back time. So while we do have to pay now a percentage to Try Now for a trial, we get kind of that time back, which can make us more money. So it works out, it levels out. Try Now is a big one. Loop is also a big one. Again, we offer free shipping and exchanges, and a lot of this process can require exchanges. I don't think we have an unreasonable amount, but being able to allow someone to do that on their own terms and not need to contact somebody, because I think a lot of people are scared to contact support. If they contact us, they're not going to have a bad experience, but having the ability to self-serve is, I think, super important. We do use an app called Prismic to launch our blogs. Again, that's part of just being headless and wanting to have more customization and how our blogs are featured, being able to add products, things like that. So that I do know, I'm 99% sure that for the headless build and things like that our CTO uses Gatsby, not part of my daily tech stack, but I know she's using it. And then for me, I'm using things like Klaviyo, Later, Attentive is what we use for SMS. Gorgeous is literally like the air in SuitShop's lungs because of how much we rely on support. We've been featured on their site a few times with our director of customer experience. She spelled out so many macros that make a huge difference in like their day-to-day and being able to get through all of the support tickets we have. And then for affiliates, we use ShareSale. This is something we've newly implemented. So we work with like a lot of press and publications, especially around weddings. And so having this, can help bring this. I don't know if this is a pro tip or not, but having something like ShareSale or an affiliate platform when you're trying to make like partner deals with publications that are in your space, it's good to have something like this, because you could go from needing to spend $2,000 a year for a spot on their website to them being like, give us the link and we'll do everything to get sales from that link to make money. So, it can really change and adapt your potential with your partners and your press partners. And then from there, everything else is kind of in Drive and Notion. We use Notion very heavily on our team to keep everything organized, process, training, etc. And then, Drive is we use Drive intermittently because there's more like space. We pay for space there. So with being in the wedding industry, we get at least one album a day probably. So we need to have a space to store all of these like very high quality photos. So yeah, that's about it for tech.
That's awesome. I kind of worked in your industry. One of my first jobs was working for a company called the Stag Company and Hen Heaven. And that was based here in Brighton. And we used to sell stag and hen do's, or we would like help people find their perfect stag and hen weekend, whether that was all over the country. And the good thing about that job was we often got sent away in groups to try out these different weekends that we planned for people. And they were just like perfect for an 18-year-old. It was carnage, as you can imagine. But it was so seasonal, like in the UK anyway, because we have a summer season, right? So is it seasonal for you? Do you have revenue spikes across the year? And if you do, how do you like deal with that? Do you just shut marketing off, or like what happens?
No. So we do have big spikes. Like there are specific months that we know are going to be our biggest months but there's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. One, the terms that you're using, people in the US that are listening to this are not going to have any clue what you're talking about. Like bachelor parties and whatnot. Those terms are not the same here. But I just know from being in here. But with that being said, moving forward from that part, we do have seasonality. We have a spring wedding season, and then you have a fall wedding season. And, but from February to November, things are pretty steady. Again, there's these big peaks, but with our custom dashboard, we also have a wedding group management system. So people can register their wedding parties and give us their wedding date, which I rely on a ton for my marketing. We'll add that. But with that being said, I almost always know with our custom dashboard how many weddings that we can expect in a month, which can help us predict inventory, can help us know like how busy things are going to be, when do we need to hire another customer support person to like join our team. So there is seasonality, but I would say that we're pretty consistent starting in February going all the way into October. I don't want to say this wrong. It's either September or October I think it's October is like the biggest wedding month ever this year. From like since 1984, this is the busiest wedding year since 1984 in the United States with over 2 million weddings planned. In October, since it's naturally the biggest wedding month of the year, it's going to be the biggest wedding month ever. So we can kind of plan and prep accordingly. Like we'll have a big restock for inventory in July, and that will kind of help for the people who are shopping for those October weddings in the early fall. So there are spikes, but it's pretty consistent. The other thing I'll add that I think is funny in the D2C space is that while everybody else is really planning for their big revenue jump to happen during Black Friday weekend and holiday shopping, that is when we are the slowest. That is when we do our planning. That's when we're taking team trips. Like we're the exact opposite. So it's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah, that's amazing. What does that make your job? So you've got this amazing intelligent dashboard, it kind of predicts what and where. Does that mean you just have to like pull out last year's marketing plan, put it into play, off we go again? Like what, or how much changes? Because if something's working, why change it, right? And there's going to be fluctuations in certain things and new things happening all the time. But how much, like what do you change year to year? Or are you just like, let's just execute again really well?
Yeah. Good question. And it's making me laugh because I think traditionally as the groomsman suit, that's probably the right answer. We know the times of year that we really need to focus on things. And, from our perspective, at the rate we're growing and the way inventory is and like the way that we have to deliver things, we can't really afford to grow faster than we're growing right now. It wouldn't be great. Our customer experience would not be as fun. So like there are times where like we actually will have a plan and we have to like dial back a little bit. But with that being said, now that we are SuitShop and we're starting to break into more like traditional suiting, whether it's prom, graduation, funerals, holidays, we're not just like limiting ourselves into this like little bucket of weddings. So with that being said, I'm also starting to work with a lot more like menswear fashion influencers or just influencers in general who like style and fashion. So with that, I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities for things to kind of ebb and flow and like have more fun campaigns. Like, for example, teaming up with a stylist or an influencer or somebody that's got something coming up that might want to design a specific suit for themselves or, and sell it to their audience or whatever the case may be. I think there will be opportunities to kind of flex our marketing strategies. But I do think for the most part, we do know what works and we have to kind of like stick to that and maybe just add fuel to the fire whenever we can afford to do so. Trying new channels, adding, for instance, for the last year up until Jan 1, we didn't really work with influencers on a larger scale. It was mostly like influencer brides who like came to us and were like, can you suit my wedding? And so we got to suit some fun, cool weddings like Joel Courtney, who was on Kissing Booth for Netflix. This year, we were shooting all of the weddings at Love is Blind for season 2 on Netflix. So like we've got these like really cool opportunities that have come through. But this year, whenever I got to manage the budget for the first time for the full calendar year, I specifically allotted money for influencers and creative marketing. So we're starting to like flex a little bit more and get out of just wedding and put more efforts into these other things. So things are changing, but there are a lot of like redundancies. Like we know when to start marketing about proposals. We know when to start marketing about destination weddings, or we know when, again, the busy wedding season is, so we can target friends of engaged a little bit more heavily, or prom. So, I mean, it's not much different than anybody else, but there is a lot of like consistencies and like repeat plays that we do go on because we know it works. So, yeah.
For sure. Makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you if you've got that information? So I want to get into one of the main reasons that you're here, which is user-generated content. And is it safe to say that that is a little bit of a side hustle for you?
Yeah, I could say that. I want to answer that a little bit more because it started as like a little fun thing where I was like, I want to try free stuff and I like to make videos, so send me stuff and I'll help you. And then it kind of evolved into a side hustle because when I first started SuitShop, I had a couple of clients that I still helped on like the growth perspective of like running their ads and emails, and my co-founders knew about it. It was just kind of like I had it on the back end that there was like a client in Australia, for example. I worked with him for 5 years. I felt bad just like dropping him. So I kind of just did, his hours were opposite of ours. So I was like, I'll just keep working with him. But then this UGC thing, I did this tweet, I got some free stuff, and then I had people reaching out to me to pay me for it. And it really did evolve into a side hustle where I did eventually drop all my other marketing side hustles or clients. And now it's just like this UGC stuff. I wouldn't say it's totally mindless, but it's a second nature to me. So now I can do that without feeling like it's impacting my ability to do my own job, like my full-time job. So it is a side hustle, but it's also like a passion project. Like I enjoy doing it. So it's not just like for money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely on board with that. Like you'd be doing it anyway, right? It's sort of if you get, what you're basically doing is getting a camera out. I mean, there's a lot more to UGC than just getting a camera out, but sometimes, actually, I know you've spoken about this before, like the grittiest content is the best content in certain situations. Like I'm sure you can get into that. So can you just tell us a bit about UGC then? What is UGC? Just give us a kind of overview of UGC from a lens that is, you're an operator in UGC, you endorse UGC. Like, what is UGC to you and how can brands leverage it?
Yeah, I think there's so many directions that this can go, especially as more and more people enter the space and are like testing different creative styles. There's an umbrella. And I think I think you've seen it on my Twitter, and some people listening might have seen it too, because it was a conversation that has been a topic lately. But there is definitely a difference between user-generated content and creator-generated content or influencer-generated content. And so whenever I'm talking to people, I'm saying, I'm making you a UGC style ad asset. I'm not, I might not be an organic user of your product, and you're going to send me the product and I'm going to make it look organic and authentic. So that's my goal. But with that being said, user-generated content is going to be, somebody, I bought this phone case. I really like this phone case. It protected my phone. It actually didn't, like, shattered my screen yesterday. But with that being said, I like the phone case. I want to make a video about it because it's so good. And I just like go to my Instagram story. I'm like, this is such a great case. It can drop from 50 feet and it's going to protect your phone and whatever. And that's like a user generated ad where the brand might DM me and be like, oh, this is such a great video. Can I have it? And so you kind of have this side of like organic UGC that just happens. But not that many users know how to tell that story and talk about the value, what the actual value of the product is, or even how to shoot the product in the right frame so that it can be used in like an ad perspective, for example. So then you have this newer generation of UGC, which is creator generated content or influencer generated content, where you're working with people who have those resources, skill sets, and abilities to create a little bit higher quality content. It could still be gritty, but they at least know what to talk about, how to angle actually have the product in frame in the right way where it can be cut into multiple ad sizes. Maybe they have the audience, but maybe they don't. Like, I have 2,000 followers on Instagram. I'm not an influencer. So with that being said, there's definitely a few different ways that you can look at it. The way it can be leveraged, if you look at it from one perspective, I think something that you're referring to, if you've listened to other podcasts or have just seen me talk, is there was a video I made with my phone when I first started SuitShop, probably my first month. I'm like, if you're getting engaged, this is for you. And I record my screen. And when I watched that, I kind of like LOL, like, I'm like, this is bad. Like in my head, I'm like, this is not my best work. But it got like 60,000 views on TikTok. At the time, our SEO agency was like, what did you guys do on Monday? Your site traffic jumped 20%. And it was only 50,000 views. So like with that being said, I think there's the organic leverage of it where something just happens to have like a viral moment, whether it's a small viral moment like 60,000 views or millions of views. There's that organic side of things that might drive people to your site. It might not convert them. That also has a lot in part to do with what's your conversion rate looking like on your website. Like once you get them there, are you answering those questions? So it's like, you have testimonials at scale, you have social proof at scale, and people need that social proof, when making the buyer decision, whether that's going to your site and finding reviews or looking up your brand name on TikTok to see other people, what they've posted. So that's, UGC can be powerful in the organic sense, but it also has a lot of power to help drive buyer decision in the ads part. I see a lot of people who talk about like, oh, well, you still need quality ads that are shot in studio or whatever the case may be. And that is true. You should have, something from a photo shoot. For example, your background is from a very expensive editorial shoot that we've done. And this kind of really encapsulates the brand and like the direction we want our brand to take and how we want to be viewed. So we've kind of hit this part, when it comes to high production content, that we want to mimic this look that's on your background. And so now we're like very stuck with this creative agency. They're great. The stylist that we work with to do these shoots is incredible, but it's super expensive. But you can only do this like twice a year, like reasonably, and we shoot as much content as we can. So being able to work with creators, whether it's a photographer, our last Instagram post today is May 12th. So our Instagram post from May 11th, if you're watching, is a post of a local Atlanta photographer that I sent some suits to. She did a photography shoot with her husband in downtown Atlanta. It's an amazing photo. It looks so good. But like I have to kind of supplement with this user generated or creator generated content in between these like massive photo shoots. So there's so many ways that somebody can use this content, but it's totally necessary, just like these very high dollar, high value images and photo shoots are necessary. They play together.
Yeah, it sounds like you're almost carving out this new decentralized part of UGC, which is really cool because when you think about when we've done filming with brands as well, there's not a lot we haven't done over the few years that we've been in business to find what actually worked for us. But when we were doing content production, even with what I would consider a smaller unit, being a cameraman, a producer, usually a second cameraman and a couple of editors, like going out and doing product shots is still 2 or 3 expensive days for location, you've got kit, you've got
Mhm.
travel, you've got people. And then not only that, you've got the weeks of planning leading up to those 2 or 3 days, from
Yep.
marketing, the conversations between maybe a third party agency, logistics, like all to bring this together. To you'll get assets from it for sure, but almost what you're doing is taking all of that value. And let's be honest, like iPhones and the cameras on those are really good now,
The
right?
newest one, the 13, it's nuts. Anyway,
it's crazy. So and most of the time, like, you take these 8K cameras out into the field, shoot these products, and then they get edited down because they go on social media to like 1080 anyway, which is what most phones shoot in. So it's just like, what is the point of all that? But anyway, the point I was making is that you're kind of like a single unit that can do all of that. But not only can you produce the content and deliver it, you're actually doing it from a top 10, 5, 1% marketeer background. So you understand the objective of the company, you understand the consumer, and you're delivering this in a package for like literally limited budget resource compared to a big shoot. It's kind of incredible how you're able to do that. And then what's maybe a bit of a loaded question now is that is presumably scalable. So whereas you might do one shoot per quarter to get all your new product range out and things like that with the old method, with you could have maybe 10 to 12 of you publishing something every week.
Yeah.
Like, is this something
totally
that is new?
scalable.
Like, what's going on? Like, do you feel like you're pioneering this a little bit, carving this out? Because I've heard of UGC, but from a traditional sense, which is just chucking products at customers and hoping that you get 10% of it back that's usable. So like, is this happening more widespread and I'm just unaware, or is this like quite new?
Yeah, like, if you, yes is the answer. There's a few directions that we can take this. So one, me at scale, I can produce a few videos for you a week. If we want to contract something, I can get some good stuff going on. But from the perspective that you're talking about with like having 12 creators, yes, that is totally happening. I'm actually part of groups where that's how I get some of my jobs. So for example, if you're not familiar with her, everyone can check her out. She was one of the first, and if anyone was pioneering this type of like scalable content creation with multiple creators, it's definitely her. Her name's Savannah Sanchez, the social Savannah. But she has like a whole group of us, of these creators that she's vetted, have background, but she has this very experiential like media buying background. She's come from an agency support background. So she's helping kind of like guide a lot of the creators. Like, she has some people that are just models, there's things like that. I don't want to get too much into her business model, but with that being said, she has brands that are getting content every week, and they're getting multiple variations, and the next week they're going to get something else, and they're all from different people and can be mashed up and reutilized in different ways. So like, Savannah was, in my eyes, from the people I know, the first person I saw really doing this. And she's been doing it for a couple of years now. So she's very established. But then UGC as a whole is like just rising crazy. I have a Slack community right now called UGC House with one of my friends, Sarah, who's also a UGC creator with a marketing background. And we have over 100 creators that are in this Slack channel and we just started it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's still on the free
How do people
trial.
get access to this? How do people get access to it?
They ask me. they
Raise your
DM
hand.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can get invited by anybody that's in the group. They just have to have your email, just how you would invite anyone to Slack. But there's 3 admins who can approve, and they have to give a reason. And I'm protecting this. Like, this is my little creator baby. Because for me as a creator on Twitter, you have all these like marketing bros or leaders in the space, and I have no like real hate towards anybody, but like, you have people have like these very large opinions about creative or direction or how creative should be used. And that's totally fine. Have them. You probably have data to back it up. But the creators that are just starting, it's overwhelming. So, it's hard. It's a hard balance for someone who's been in the space doing this for a couple of years, because now there are so many new creators who are coming in charging a lot less money than me, but they also have a lot less background, a lot less experience. So it just depends. You get what you pay for, kind of thing. But this little space I've created is really just like a spot that I want for creators where they can feel safe to, one, share experiences with brands that are not fun to work with. And if you have given a creator a bad experience, I will bet you all of the money in your store right now that every other creator that's in these communities knows that you don't pay on time, you're nitpicky, that you're asking for the most asinine, ridiculous things, like we know about it. We know people who are going through lawsuits because someone tried to dispute a charge for something they delivered on. Like there's crazy stuff that happens, and having like this space for UGC creators, I think is so important. So the point of me saying all of this is that not just anyone can join. We care that they are a creator of sorts. They can be an operator that also creates. They can be an agency owner that also creates. But if they're not a creator and they're not going through those, same experiences that we're going through, we're trying to be a little bit selective and intentional about the people that are in this group. But we use it to train people. I might give away too much free work. But I was going to say later in something else that you might ask, that I do believe in like pouring outwardly, because what you pour out, you get back. And a lot of times you get it back more. So, we do a little bit of free trainings. There are brands that are under 30K MRR that I've offered free UGC to, from early stage creators that might not have high rates or need examples in their portfolio. So I'm connecting like these creators with these brands that, they have a mutual need for each other. And anyway, I don't know, I want to get too much into that, but there are tons of creators entering this space right now. They might not all have the background. I think that brands have to be wary of who they're working with, and remember again that yes, you can be getting what you pay for in this scenario. So make sure you do ask for examples, and make sure you do kind of understand this person's background, because there are a lot of people who have seen dollar signs and people making money, like, for example, myself, who have like a great income stream from this, and they're like, I can do that. I can point and shoot, but there's a lot more that's coming into my background. So you have to like notice the difference between these two people. And kind of talking on something else that you mentioned about gritty, raw content that like maybe isn't the best. Sometimes that works. So I'm not saying that you can't get it. It's not, if someone's charging $100 for a video and you have $100, like get the video and test it. But like, if someone's charging $500 or $1,000 and you're like, I don't want to, maybe consider what their background is and what their like actual quality of work is. And you might find that it's actually really easy to work with that person, and that you're getting exactly what you want, versus having to coach someone through it for $100 and spending 5 hours trying to back and forth to get what you want out of it. So anyway, could go on literally forever about this topic.
I love this idea of like top tier marketeers running around creating content for other brands, knowing exactly what sells, how to create the content, where the content's going, how to persuade, but also doing it just because they love doing it. Like, not because they're not, the money's great, but they're doing it because they like products and they like to film, and they understand, they're passionate about the space. Like, that is like a dream situation right there for like so any brand. I feel like you need to start a pioneer, like like how Michelin have Michelin restaurants, like Michelin star. It shouldn't be UGC anymore. It should be PUGC, professional user generated content. And you should have like some kind of verification or merit that everyone's like, yeah, you're an established marketer, you know what to produce, how to produce it. That would be so cool. And that's like, I came into this thinking I knew everything about UGC because of basically Twitter, and you just blow my mind with that little kind of fragmented community that's going and doing these things. So
we're working on something, just so you know. Like, I don't want to get too much into it because it's such a fresh part of this community that someone could easily just go do it if we don't do it fast enough. So I'm not going to get too into it, but like Sarah and I are working on some of this stuff. That is why we're offering kind of these like free trainings. I don't think that they'll be free forever, but there will be I think opportunities to kind of certify someone in this professional UGC space. So we'll see what happens in that, but it is something that I think is on the radar. And I know that we're not the only ones thinking about it, but I do know there are only, I'd say a handful, more, maybe a few handfuls. I don't want to limit it to 5, but there are a few handfuls of people who I really trust to create quality UGC. And I know if I give them a product, I'll get what I want out of it. And then there are a lot of other people who want to be in that space, and they're learning and they're working on it, and they're going to get there. So soon there will be a lot more of us. But right now, there are only a few that are, like you said, these marketers that have this really strong background, and actually, you just send them a product and you give them a creative brief, and you're going to get exactly what you want, and likely going to convert, without having to spend $10,000, $100,000 on a really nice photo shoot or video shoot.
Yeah, I get you. So here's a challenge for you, right? Here's a challenge. So imagine a bit of a dinosaur brand that's just been around for ages, isn't particularly innovative, but sells enough things every year in the same way. The website's very bland, blah, blah, blah. Advertising is just basic. They want to change things up and they say, right, we've heard about this UGC thing. They come to you and they say, what is UGC going to do for us? What is the upside of UGC? What would you how would you sell UCG to a brand?
Interesting question, because in case anybody in the home furniture space is listening, I'm about to move into my first home, like my first home that I'm buying with my fiance. And I've been reaching out to some of these larger brands. I wouldn't call them dinosaurs. They definitely use UGC and influencer stuff, but they're so used to working with influencers that I keep getting this like one size fits all application. How many followers do you have? How many times are you going to post? It's like, that is not what I'm trying to do for you. Can we have a conversation? So it's interesting that you say that. So with that being said, I think one of the things that you could say is what we were talking about earlier. This is a user testimonial or kind of verified customer feedback at scale, which again, it might not actually be verified, but if you can be authentic enough in your content creation, people are going to think that you're actually a customer that made this video. So with that being said, when we talked about what we were just talking about for like the last like 15 minutes is when you're creating a typical ad, or if you don't have any ads at all, like I've worked with so many like old school brands like over the years that have never had a video, like they were taking things on their iPhone, or maybe they just had like a light box and a DSLR. And, you know, that's how they've always made their money and they've made it fine without it. Like, why would they do that? But you have this like now social proof video, people seeing what is the experience like with your brand from the, if you know, get an unboxing video, for example, someone knows what to expect when they have a product delivered. This is what that experience is going to look like. The packaging is super nice. It looks like it was cared for. It looks like they actually, you know, have some sort of attention to detail. For example, when putting my product in the box, I know it's going to arrive not broken or trashed. So you kind of have this type of experience of like, this is what the event is going to be like when you receive a product. Then you kind of have, how is this going to change my life? How is this product going to work for me moment? So you can say that all day. I can have a landing page that talks about why it's gross to rent a suit and wear something that someone else has been sweating in 15 different times. Like you have 15 different people's sweat built into the thread of a rental suit, and you're going to fight me on buying the suit for the same price. So like I can have a landing page for that. But if somebody else takes a rental suit and shows you kind of like, you know, this is what it looks like, this is how it arrived, had a stain on it because they didn't get it dry cleaned, and I can like literally smell the last person's like sweat on my suit, and then I just got this brand new suit and it was the exact same price and look how good I look. If I can have someone do that, then I just like solve some objections in the ad before they even got to my website. They don't even need to read what I wrote because I solved a problem in an ad. And now they trust that someone else has already had a good experience. So they're like, okay, I have this social proof. So it provides value on so many levels. On top of that, I mean, if you want, we can get into some data and see what like this UGC, like how it converts. One of my top performing ads is an ad where I sent a guy a suit and he did some cute transitions. It has no sound, no voiceover, no text. I removed all of it and I gave it to my agency. I said, run it how it is. They were like, can you just add sound? I said, please run it how it is. I just want to run this. It's my best performing ad. The guy's just doing some little transitions and wearing the suit in 4 different styles for 4 different seasons. So how do you get one suit to work for weddings every season of the year? And that's all that person needed to know. I'm going to be able to wear this again. It's not just for a one-time event, so I can actually justify purchasing it. So, you know, you're being able to really walk people through their objections with ads generally, but when you have somebody who's an actual user and they can see themselves in it and say, hey, that's me, you know, you're providing so much more value in that. So I think like with UGC, you're saving money, you're giving social proof, and at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, like cut it and try it again. It's a couple $100, like in some cases, maybe 1,000, but like, you know, you're really not spending that much money to just be constantly testing versus if you want to test a high production video, you're going to maybe, you know, one of our cheaper shoots cost us, I think like $15,000 or $20,000 out of pocket. And we got 5 videos out of it. How much am I going to test that? I have to pay an extra $2,000 if I want it without text and be able to adjust it. So, you know, with the creator, I can get 4 more videos for that same price. Like no brainer.
It is a no-brainer, isn't it? And I don't know your opinion on this, and I haven't got any data to back it up, but I feel like the more polished a piece of content is nowadays, the more it looks like an ad, and then the more you're so unlike because Facebook, all the big companies ended up jumping on it, as we all knew they would, and Instagram, and when you see like a company that is in the millions, if not billions, in terms of revenue, they're so polished 90% of the time, the ads, and you just instantly you see polish, you move past it.
It's a pendulum.
Yeah.
It's a pendulum. It swings back and forth. Like you're going to get every opinion under the sun on Twitter and in podcasts. Like, you know, what I say is not going to be what someone else says, but like there's a pendulum for sure, because people are starting, like they're always going to have ad fatigue. It doesn't matter if you're creating super polished videos, or if you're creating funny videos, if you're creating, you know, something shot on my iPhone, like they're going to get ad fatigue and they're going to start recognizing. I had a comment on one of my ads on TikTok that I happened to see because I got served my own ad from a brand. And it was like, stop making ads that don't look like ads. It was like, it was just a funny comment. So like people are going to hit ad fatigue and start recognizing that even though it doesn't look like an ad, it's still an ad. So I'm not going to say that is like the biggest selling point of it. It is true. If it fits more organically, the scroll stop is likely going to be a little bit higher percentage. Like you're going to be able to capture people if they don't recognize it's an ad and they're just like, F it, it's an ad, I'm going to keep scrolling. So there is that component to it, but sometimes having the more polished ad can mean that you're a bit more trustworthy, that you have the money to invest in a studio, and that, you know, that the product might be a higher quality. So anyway, there's a pendulum, and I think it'll always kind of swing back and forth until people hit a certain point of fatigue. And I think that's what keeps like advertisers on their toes and creators on their toes. It's like, how do I create the best ad that's going to be educational, but keep people watching and, you know, not deter them from the actual message and like get them to convert? So yeah, it's a pendulum.
I think that's a really good point. And signaling springs to mind when you say about that, in terms of over investing on polish to just prove that you can. And I guess like the Super Bowl ads are kind of the distribute it's controversial in that, yeah, there's a lot of eyeballs on it, but it's also a bit of a statement, isn't it, as a brand to be
to be able to afford that. It's so much money. Right. My fiance's company was on the Super Bowl this year, and he was like telling me some stuff, and I was like,
many pounds. I mean, Gary Vee will try and convince you that it's the cheapest attention arbitrage that you can get, but I mean, it's difficult. But then at the same time, like if you think of a flower, flowers technically don't need petals, you know, but that's not how they reproduce. But they have very colorful petals, and usually the more colorful the flower gets to be, that is really signaling. It's kind of unnecessary, but it shows that they've got something good to offer. So I kind of get it. Okay, cool. One more question on you. This is like already running way past what it was meant to run. So just one more question on UGC and then a quick lightning round, because I'm just you knocked me over with the middle of this and we spent a lot of time on it. So once you've got your UGC, you're a brand, where can you distribute it? How do you implement it? Like, is there any places? There's the obvious places, right? I'd like to cover those, but is there any other places that you think UGC is particularly effective?
Yeah. So great question. I mean, obvious, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, those are going to be like, I think the top performers right now for people is just running through Meta, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. A lot of people are doing Reels. I didn't see like great success with Reels when I first tested it. I haven't really like noticed what the shift has been. TikTok has been obviously like a super hot topic. People are talking about how much TikTok can bring from them. I've had a few top performers in TikTok ad library. So like, I know it works. Then you have the organic side. If you just want somebody to like make something. So for example, when I work with like a really big influencer that's charging me $4,000 for a post, I'm not going to pay them the extra thousands of dollars for paid usage rights, unless it's maybe for whitelisting, which is only usually a couple $100. But paid usage rights are so much more dollars. I don't know. So much more money from a big influencer. Their face is recognized, so they want the money to like, you know, that comes with that. So with that being said, I'll run a lot of the times, I'll ask them to do it as a collaborative post or post it on my own as like an organic piece of media. And then the other side is like potentially on the website. I think again, like just going back for testimonials and social proof. If someone didn't get your ad and never saw that and they came in organically from, just paid search, or not paid search, but paid search is a great example too. But organic search, they just were looking up suits for $200 and they got to my website and they never saw any of my ads. It doesn't hurt to have those social testimonials that are somehow embedded. I actually can't remember. I was trying so hard to remember before we jumped on, but I remember not that long ago where I was on a website, and I want to say it was a beauty brand of sorts, where I could scroll through a bunch of just like UGC on their site of people talking about the product, how much they liked it. I definitely think it's worth testing if you have the ability to like knock out a landing page and host videos on your website to run it, like see if it helps somebody, like especially if it's like an organic landing page or a landing page that maybe is attached to a paid search ad that doesn't necessarily have a video or visual component to it. Definitely test it. It's the same thing, just like on paper.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. There you go. Masterclass in UGC. So let's go into a lightning round. Is there anything else that you want to add in there from a UGC perspective?
No, pay creators what they're worth. And just because you see other creators coming on charging $50, $100, $150 for a video, that doesn't mean that everybody's that rate. And just because they charge more doesn't mean that they're not going to give you much better quality content. So keep those things in mind when you're vetting your creators.
One really quick final question on that. In terms of churn rate on is there a churn rate, or can you only ever use one video, or like what? Because like someone like Marcus Brownlee, who does the Apple things, like the unboxings and things, he's technically UGC for Apple. I'm sure they don't pay him, but he's obviously built an established relationship with that brand. Like, is that something that you see? Is that something you encourage, or do you think it's better to just do like one shot UGC?
Yeah, no, I think most creators would agree that it's never really the right answer to only get one video, because that's giving me one shot to get it right versus like, there's testing involved. Like get a few so that you can kind of have 3 different intros or 3 different concepts to test. And then, if you notice that maybe all 3 concepts of mine work and you're like, oh wait, like this girl knows what she's talking about, then you get people to come back. So I personally just work in sets of 1, 2, or 3. I don't do contracts. I don't do retainers. I would do them if somebody wanted to work with me like that and like actually specifically requested it. But for me, I work full time and I like to keep my options open. So it's easier for me to just say you can buy 1 to 3 at a time. And most brands that I've worked with, I can list them off if we wanted to, but I'm not going to, come back and ask for more multiple times. Like I still get to work with them. So it doesn't hurt to work with someone a lot, especially I get a lot of creators that work on the organic perspective. I personally just don't, because I want to do my 3 videos of like paid USPs. That's it. But there are a lot of creators who do organic stuff if you need someone to be like the face and that are working more regularly with you on like your organic side of your page, or like being the face of your brand. So I think both are good options. It just depends on what your needs and requirements are.
Cool. So lightning round. So we're looking for just super short answers to these. 1 word or less than a paragraph. So if not e-commerce or related to e-commerce, what do you think you'd be doing, or what would you want to be doing?
I'll probably be a dentist. I went back to school in 2019 and I have a 3.95 GPA for prerequisites and could apply to dental school right now because I have all the requirements done. So that would probably be where I was at, but D2C stole my heart. So here we are.
What a different world that could have been for you, huh? Wow.
Yeah. Not many people know that. I had to drop it.
Wow. How many domains do you own?
I'm not really big on this. I have like maybe 5 or 10. SuitShop has a lot more though.
You're not big on it, 5 or 10.
I'm not someone who's like, oh, an idea, I'm going to own the domain. But I have like my parents' website domain, my own personal, like small things. I don't have like random big ideas that I just stole the domain for so no one else could have it. You
might need to reassess based on the other episode answers, because that's quite high.
Wow.
I know. Oh. Do you think you'll start your own e-commerce company or company in general in the future? Is that like something you think could happen?
If I could figure out a product with a purpose or have like a co-founder that I trusted, maybe. I don't need a co-founder. I'm just saying I hate when people just like start drop shipping or there's a product that has no purpose. Like that's good on them, but I could never do it. So if I found a product with purpose, yes, but I think you're way more likely to see me start something more from the creator side or try to become an influencer in my own right versus starting a Shopify store.
Yeah, sure. We discussed the complexities of the tech stack that you're working on right now. So has there ever been a time where there's a bug or something hasn't quite worked as it was expected and it's gone live or is on live, and you've had to either quickly adapt and do something else or change it, or has the site gone down in the worst case? Can you recall any moments like that?
Not for me, like personally, maybe like I accidentally like forgot to export an important order and needed to like rush ship it. But the one thing that comes to mind is when we did launch our brand new site for the headless commerce, we noticed something the night before launch, that I like about like the way that things redirected or something of sorts. And it actually was like, we have to stop. So like my CTO was like heads down for 2 days. We pushed our launch date, but like it was a good call on a bad thing that saved us a lot. So, but there hasn't been something that's gone live and then I'm like, oh no, I need to fix it. Besides like maybe a typo, but that's not a big deal.
Not too much of a big deal. I get you.
Yeah.
What motivates you in life? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
So I come from a family that was in the poverty tax bracket, and my partner is an immigrant from Lithuania. So we came from like lower income backgrounds. And so I won't say that money itself is a driver, but I think financial freedom and, you know, if I'm lucky enough to have children one day, that like they can live a life that isn't necessarily in fear of having enough money, but they can actually go to school or pursue their dreams and not need to have 3 or 4 jobs like I did to just, you know, cover my rent in college. So I think financial freedom is a huge driver, but more so in the sense that that means that my family can feel safe and protected and free.
Healthy, really healthy answer that. And then leading into how much money, and I need a figure in the bank for you to just go, cool, I don't need to work anymore. You can if you want, but I don't need to work anymore. I'm just going to do whatever I like.
This is so subjective. I hate this question because this depends. Is your money working for you once you have that money in the bank, or is it literally just sitting? Because I can blow through cash. Like I have a shopping addiction. I work in D2C. Like, come on.
Whatever would fit you.
I mean, honestly, I think for me, I flop back and forth with my perspective as I've grown in the world, where I could sell everything I have right now and live in a van, and because none of it matters. And like, I know none of it matters. So I could go from being like, okay, if I have $1 million, I could stretch that for the rest of my life and live it nomad. I don't care. But then there's the other side of me that has that thing that I was just talking about right before this, where I'm like, I need millions on millions on millions so that I'm good, my kids are good, their kids are good. You know, that's not how generational wealth works. You know, it eventually drops off. But with that being said, I think a lot of money, like maybe, I don't know, like 50 million, like 1 million a year until I die. If I'm lucky enough to make it that well.
No one's looked at it quite that way, but it's logical.
Hey, I'm the least logical person ever. Honestly, like I have the lowest amount of logic, but my Lithuanian fiance has a lot of logic. And so I think I like try to be logical because of him, but so that's the best answer I have right now without thinking about it too much.
50 million. I'd be happy with 50 million too. That's good enough. How do you measure your personal? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's greedy. I think like I like the answer because I like the fact that it sounds like you don't rely on money for happiness, right?
Yeah.
Or fulfillment, but you'd also like to be able to just burn cash. Like who wouldn't?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, it's a materialistic world. No matter if you need it or not, it's still fun to have it.
50 million would be like the dream. I don't, but you know, I think I would be fine with much less to answer. I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
We're almost done. These are hard questions. How do you measure your personal success? Like what makes you think, you know what, I had a good day today, I had a good month, I had a good year this year? And how are you measuring your personal success?
I think the cliche answer is like, am I happy? Is my family happy? Or is my partner and I's relationship solid? Like those are things I'm like thinking about, because if I worked too much then my relationships struggle, and then my happiness struggle. So there's like a weird personal balance. But this question, when I was looking at it, made me think maybe it's time in my life where, one, I think I need to set better boundaries, but two, maybe I need to set what a personal like KPI, this is like so cringe, what like a personal KPI would look like for myself to like measure my personal success. Like, what does that actually look like? Because goals and dreams change and evolve over time as like perspective changes, I've realized. So it's hard. So right now I think it's just like cliche, and it's like, am I happy? Is my family happy? Is my partner and I, like, are we living the life that we want to be living? And then from there, I think it will always like adapt and change. But I think I need to think on that more offline.
Yeah. No, I think that everyone can probably relate to that in some way. All right. Yeah. Last two questions then. Has SuitShop ever taken a loan or outside funding that you're aware of?
So I don't think that that's my question to answer. I know that we do have some small investments, and, you know, I even got my job through the connection with one of our investors. So I know that there is some money, but I do think that for the most part, in like a general sense, that we're more of a bootstrap brand. Like, there has been some outside money, but I don't think it's enough to be like, oh, they're backed and funded. But again, it's not really totally my question to answer. The only other thing is we won like, I think it was like $10,000 or something from like FedEx, like small business grant in like 2016 or 2017. But we don't have a lot of money in the bank from other people is the point.
Cool. And finally, a guilty pleasure.
I'm just going to plug one of my favorite CPG brands right now, but this is Wonder Keks brownies. Sorry, I know that it's US only, but they ship super quick. There's no preservatives, and it is so good. I could literally eat like one a day. I could eat more than one a day. One a day would be like respectful. But they're one of my guilty pleasures. I even have a birthday photo shoot planned for Memorial Day, and I'm going to be including their brownies in my birthday shoot. So they're my guilty pleasure at this time. It's Wonder Keks.
Wonder Keks. I mean, I wish I could try it. I can't. But you guys seem to have everything. Like the America, Canada as well. Just you get everything. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. And look out for this episode. And do you have a playbook or anything like that people can download from anywhere, or is it just your Twitter?
Just my Twitter, but maybe I'll think about that on that personal KPI journey.
You got to get to 50 million somehow, right?
Yeah.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for joining the show.
Me.
The fact that you're still here at the end of this episode tells me that, one, you must have enjoyed it, and two, you're probably as big of an e-commerce geek as I am. Thank you for sticking around, and I just want to give a special thanks to Rewind, Clearco and Fixer for sponsoring this episode. You can find more information and the offers that are associated with those companies in the show notes below. Please also, if you haven't already, go to ecom.gold and subscribe to Gold Club. You'll get alerts about upcoming episodes. You'll get extra content like playbooks from each of the people and guests that we have on the show. And you'll also get access to some of the exclusive content that we have coming up. And finally, do share the show with your friends. Give us a review. It really helps us to build our audience. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take it easy, and we'll see you next time.